Today, according to country study of English-speaking countries, we are going to cover the third lecture, which is called State and the Political System of the USA. According to this topic, according to our plan, we are going to cover the subtopics like the USA legislature, the Parliament of the United States, the Congress, the House of Representatives, the Senate of the USA, legislative functions of the US Congress, procedure for passing laws in the United States of America, the President of the United States, and the political parties in the USA. The United States is the longest surviving existent constitutional republic. The Constitution of the USA creates the basic structure of federal system in which political power is divided between the national government and the government of each state. So there are three levels of political power: the federal, the state, and the local. The Constitution contains 7 original articles. The Bill of Rights, which is about the fundamental rights of any American. The freedom of religion, speech, and the press, the right of peaceful assembly, and the right to petition the government to correct wrongs, etc. Further, 17 amendments to the Constitution. The US Constitution has proved to be a remarkably stable document. If one accepts that the first 10 amendments were in effect part of original constitutional settlement, there have only been 70 amendments in over 200 years. One of the major reasons for this is that quite deliberately on the part of its drafters, the Constitution is a very difficult instrument to change. First, a proposed amendment has to be secured a 2/3 votes of members present in both houses of Congress. Then, 3/4 of the state legislature have to ratify the proposed change. This stage may or may not be governed by a specific time limit. At the heart of the US Constitution is the principle known as separation of powers, a term coined by the French political Enlightenment thinker Mastic. This means that power is spread between 3 institutions of the state, branches of power: the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. And no one institution has too much power, and no individual can be a member of more than one institution. This principle is also known as checks and balances, since each of 3 branches of the state has some authority to act on its own, some authority to regulate the other 2 branches, and has some of its own authority in turn regulated by other branches. Under the system of checks and balances, each branch of power acts within its constitutional limits and has the following powers. The Legislative Congress has the power to propose new laws, decide upon taxes and how money is spent, overrule presidential veto by 2/3 majority, bring impeachment to the president. Senate confirms presidential appointments to executive and judicial posts. Congress exerts oversight of executive activities, can impeach and remove judges and justices, set size of Supreme Court, can initiate constitutional amendments, create federal courts inferior to the Supreme Court. The executive, the president, has the power to veto laws, appoint Supreme Court justices, grant pardons to federal offenders, represent federal government before the court. Vice President is President of Senate and can break tie votes. The judiciary, the Supreme Court, has the power to determine which laws apply to any given case, determine whether a law is unconstitutional, declare presidential acts unconstitutional. Chief Justice presides over trials of presidential impeachment. The USA legislature, the Parliament of the United States, the Congress. The United States Congress is the bicameral legislature of the federal government of the US, consisting of two houses, the Senate and the House of Representatives. The Senate of the USA is the upper chamber in the bicameral legislature. The Senate consists of 100 members, each of which represents a state and serves for a 6-year term. 1/3 of the Senate stands for election every 2 years. Each state has 2 senators, regardless of population, and since there are 50 states, then there are 100 senators. This is equality of Senate seats between states has the fact of producing huge variation in constituent population. With growth overrepresentation of the smaller states and the serious underrepresentation of racial and ethnic minorities. Members of the Senate are elected by first-past-the-post voting in every state except Louisiana and Washington, which have runoffs. Elections are always held on the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November in even-numbered years. In the event that a member of the Senate dies or resigns before the end of a 6-year term, no special election is held to fill the vacancy. Instead of the governor of the state and the senator represented nominates someone to serve until the next set of congressional election, when a normal election is held to fill the vacancy. The Vice President of the United States is the ex officio President of the Senate with authority to preside over the Senate sessions. The House of Representatives is the lower chamber of the bicameral legislature. The House consists of 435 members, each of whom represents a congressional district and serves for a 2-year term. House seats are proportional to the population of states. Typically, a House constitution would represent around 500,000 people. Members of the House are elected by first-past-the-post voting in every state except Louisiana and Washington, which have runoffs. Elections are always held on the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November in even-numbered years. In the event that member of the House of Representatives dies or resigns before the end of the 2-year term, a special election is held to fill the vacancy. The House has 4 non-voting delegates from American Samoa, the District of Columbia, Guam, and Virgin Islands. The House is presided over by the Speaker. Procedure for passing laws in the United States of America. Legislative proposals can take the form of bills, joint resolutions, concurrent resolutions, and simple resolutions. Bills are the most common form of a legislative proposal and can originate in either the House of Representatives or the Senate. All bills for raising revenue should originate in the House of Representatives. However, the Senate can propose or concur with amendments. In order to become law, bills must be agreed in an identical form by both bodies and receive presidential approval. Most legislative proposals of any form are introduced to the House of Representatives. Joint resolutions are very similar to bills and can also originate in either the House of Representatives or in the Senate. Concurrent resolutions are not presented to the President for approval but become law on approval by both bodies. Concurrent resolutions usually regulate administrative issues regarding the operation of both the House of Representatives and the Senate. Simple resolutions regulate issues related to the operation of either the House of Representatives or Senate. They are not presented to the President for approval. Passing a bill goes through the following stages: introduction and referral to committee. Bills can be introduced by any member in the House of Representatives, and they may have an unlimited number of co-sponsors. Consideration. The process is initiated by public hearing, where the committee members hear various views on the proposed legislation. A transcript of the testimonies is taken during the hearings and is made available for inspection in the committee office. House floor consideration. Most legislative measures proceed to this stage after they have been reported by a committee. Sometimes it's possible that they can be brought to the floor directly. The procedure in the full House is regulated by rules. Rules are simple resolutions that determine the debate time and whether amendments will be offered. Senate stage. After the bill has been approved by the House, it must be submitted to the Senate for consideration. The bill cannot be presented to the President for approval unless both bodies have agreed on the same final draft. Presidential action. The bill that has been voted by both House and the Senate is presented to the President for approval. If the President signs the bill, it becomes law. The President has the right to refuse to sign. In this case, the President must return a bill with objections to Congress within 10 days, excluding Sundays. After the bill was presented for approval, if the President fails to return the bill, it becomes law as if it had been signed. The President of the United States. Although the Founding Fathers wanted to avoid a political system that in any way reflected the monarchical system, the prevalent in Britain, and for a long time the presidency was relatively weak. The vast expansion of the federal bureaucracy and the military in the 20th century has in current practice given a greater role and more power to the president than is the case for any single individual in most political systems. The president is both the head of the state and the head of government, as well as the military commander-in-chief and the chief diplomat. He presides over the executive branch of the federal government, a vast organization numbering about 4 million people, including 1 million active-duty military personnel. Within the working of the federal government, and he may issue executive orders to affect internal policies. The President may sign or veto legislation passed by Congress and has the power to recommend measures to Congress. The Congress may override a presidential veto, but only by 2/3 of majority in each house. The President is elected for a fixed term of 4 years and may serve maximum of 2 terms. Elections are always held on the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November to coincide with congressional elections. The President may be impeached by majority in the House and removed from office by 2/3 majority in the Senate for treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. Inauguration. Finally, the elected President and Vice President take the oath of office. They take their representative office on January 20, which is the inauguration day. The inauguration of the President of the United States occurs upon the commencement of a new term of a President of the United States. The only inauguration element mandated by the United States Constitution is that the President makes the following oath or affirmation before he or she can enter the execution of the office of the presidency. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. The newly elected or re-elected president often states, "So help me God," and after completing the oath. The political parties in the USA. Political parties in the USA, to an extent quite extraordinary in democratic countries, the American political system is dominated by two political parties, the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, often known as Grand Old Party or GOP. These are very old and very stable parties. The Democrats go back to 1824 and the Republicans were founded in 1854. The Democratic Party is sometimes represented as a donkey, while the Republican Party is sometimes featured as an elephant. The main reasons for the dominance of these two parties is that, like most other Anglo-Saxon countries, the electoral system is a first past the post or simple majority, which combined with the large voter size of the constituents in the House. Since effectively a candidate can spend any amount he can raise, and since one can buy broadcasting time, the US can only afford two parties, or to put it another way, candidates of any other party face formidable financial barrier to entry. According to our lecture, State and the Political System of the USA, we have covered the subtopics like the USA legislature, the Parliament of the United States, the Congress, the House of Representatives, the Senate of the USA, legislative functions of the US Congress, procedure for passing laws in the United States of America, the President of the United States, and the political parties in the USA. Thank you for your attention.